talk on our channel, and I'm as well going to record on Zoom just in case they decide to take the video down. So,
recording in progress.
I hope everyone is having a good night. I got attacked with the orbs, then I got the migraine, but I'm here. And Chad's been working a lot outside, but we're here. We're talking. I sent Chad a video on Alex Collier, and he was talking about how in Rome there was the 13 families, which still exist today, and they focus on shame, guilt, sin, and control. They do not focus on self-responsibility, love, or respect. Now, he said the whole thing that they want to do with this reset and the humanoids that supposedly Elon Musk is creating, but it's top secret, but we know he didn't create them. They were already created before Atlantean times, which are the Fomorians. Look up Dark Journalist on that. What he was trying to say, did you catch that, Chad? That everybody's supposed to be going to Jupiter. And that anything that is like AI or whatever will be dust. That only plants, humans, and animals will survive and will go up to Jupiter. Now, there's a lot of misinformation out there because Elon Musk and all the hooplas, they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna go to Mars." Well, we've already been there. We still have colonies there on the dark side of the moon. You know. I also wanted to. I know you have a list, so I'll go off a little bit on topic. Do you remember that? I sent you that movie of the White Hats that it was called Metropolis 1927. How they actually made us humans, and they were showing how they made ISIS, the Whore of Babylon, the whole America, holding up the Statue of Liberty, holding up the torch, right? And then in this black and white movie, they talk about how they worship Moloch, and then they talk about how they show the actual sacrifices from, remember back in the day, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and all that. Aztecs would take out the heart and all that. There's a reason why they would do that. They were feeding these, we'll call them plasmoid gods for now. We can also call them, what is that word? Not entities, but I forgot. Anyway, so Chad.
I mean, they were talking to gods.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, I think I heard somebody recently, and I'm trying to remember who. They were talking about like back in the day, and I don't believe it was that long ago. I mean, when I get a memory of this, I also remember the sky being much closer and canyons not being so deep or mountains being so tall. You know what I mean? It just felt like a shorter, I don't know, something was different. And, crap, where was I going? Sorry.
It's okay.
What were you saying? Because I get spun off.
So let's see. Oh yeah. And I'm just gonna
Yeah.
So these, there was a question in the audience for Collier, and of course he was also taken out, like Cyrus Parcel was taken out and Max Beers was taken out, sadly, and that pisses me off. He was talking about the 47 security, people or beings that are on top of the president. So I was listening to Dark Journalist, how he was saying that Carter, when Carter was president, he actually fired Bush because he would not give him the paperwork or information on why they shot John F. Kennedy, which was the CIA. Now we know that, but back in the day, they were trying to blame everybody else. And so Carter placed another authority figure there, and for 4 years, he could not get any information on the JFK file. So, um, he was saying how the CIA is pretty much still in control, you know? And then we got the Vatican. So, does the Vatican take orders? I'm pretty sure the CIA takes orders from the Vatican. Don't you?
Well,
Um,
there's that 47 layers that, you know,
mhm,
Alex Collier was talking about above the president. So, yes,
mhm, mm,
government. And I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with the Vatican.
mhm.
Although I've heard the 13 families are in Venice, the city that's in the sea, so that they're in maritime law.
Yeah, that is was I believe it's Douglas Dietrich that talks about that.
That's true. Okay, that's where I heard that from then.
Mhm. It's just the times that we're going through right now. It's kind of funny because how long ago was this video of Alex Collier? My goodness, it's been what, maybe 15 years,
That's what I was wondering. Okay,
10
because
years.
yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah, because Kerry Cassidy was still with that guy that she was still with in the beginning when she did
Wow.
Camelot,
It
and
almost
he was
feels like
there.
current times. Yeah.
Uh huh. And he was talking about how, yeah, a lot of people are saying to buy gold and silver, but can you really eat gold or silver? And wow, the whole thing was for them to trade, gold and silver for food and armor and weapons and, magazines and everything like that. So the question still remains, well, in Spanish, there's a saying called "Están más cerca los dientes que el pariente." So it's your teeth are closer than your family member that you can help. So you're obviously going to help yourself first and your family, right? Um,
Is that
that's
yourself first in your family?
so pretty much if somebody goes and knocks on your door, Chad,
Hmm.
you got your M16 or you got your AK-47 or whatever, and you got your food, you got water, and your neighbor knocks. Hey, I got this gold ring. Can I have like 10 pounds of whatever, food and ammo, whatever? Would you do it?
Right.
Maybe you would if you have been stocking up on food and water for years, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And then what if that person tells the other person and the other neighbor? So, you know what I'm saying? They're trying to scare us, but at the same time, we do have to be wise. They want the control of the people. How do they control people? They control people with fear. And when you give in to fear, what happens? Chaos comes. And going back to the movie Sonic, when they use the ship that looks like the mushroom and the bell, right, with the little web feet or whatever, in the middle, there's the yellow chaos that's going round and round. And there's, the actor, what's his name? Jim Carrey and his grandfather, oh, we're going to destroy the world, the grandfather says. And then the grandkid is like, what do you mean? But I just found you. What do you mean we're going to destroy the world plus us? So they want to destroy all of us. They want to destroy because we're here and we're remembering. They want us to not remember. And we were talking off camera real quick, and I was telling Chad,
Okay.
I really don't believe in the old west. I think that's just a program.
Yeah. I'll get into
But
that
yeah,
too. I
go
think.
ahead. Your turn.
Hold it. Keep going. Or are you done?
I'm done for now because I do want you to give that little. There's no mute button here on live. Wow.
I just don't want to
Okay.
lose my thought because I have a lot of things floating around in my head.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
did
I'm done.
earlier, but I have it back. But I just want to be able to follow what I want to say chronologically.
Yes.
I want to respond to what you just said. Destroy. I think it's more. Yeah, the reset. Okay. So reset versus destroy. We'll debate that.
And then later on, we can talk about abductions after your.
Yeah, sure. So now my throat is closing up.
Oh no. Do you have
I
anything blue?
That what?
Anything blue that you can put around your neck? Or just think blue dots in your neck, in your voice box.
I use
Blue.
my vocabulary words and maybe vocabulary will come back.
Blue. I also wanted to talk about the abductions and Area 51, 52. I know I was there, and then the bird people. Oh my gosh. Like the bird people that went with me to in an elevator, we I could see everything outside the atriums. It was all clear, and we went all the way down.
Did you
And
say
there was a
52?
yeah, there's Area 51 and 52. So
Oh,
Groom Lake and all that, and then supposedly they moved it, but
okay.
still.
Hello,
And why? Go ahead.
everyone.
I'm ready.
Veronica is doing well because she's getting through a migraine right now. So
I'm
we're
in a lot of pain too on ugh, my
yeah,
left
but we
side.
because you pushed it today, but we
I
appreciate you
did.
being here. It's been some time, and I feel like there's a lot of catching up to do, and I don't know if everybody else has noticed what I've noticed, but it seems like if you watch, well, I like to watch different things. I don't like to tune into just one community. So if you're
Yeah.
also like that, then perhaps you've noticed that certain communities do need to unite because they're not aware of each other.
Yeah.
And you would think in the chats maybe somewhere somebody would mention something, but for some reason it's like one person's looking for the other and the other has the information one needs. And I'll get into that a little bit further. So I would like to
Yeah.
talk about things like um, or get more into those topics and how they connect, um,
Mhm.
and talk about the big picture. But the little pieces that build up the big picture are big pictures in themselves, right? So
Yeah.
so to just talk about it in one go, it's going to be like, what the heck, hurricane just went past me, and
Yes.
you're going to be lost. So I just think it's nice to introduce like the concept that I'm going to introduce, and then maybe have some shows breaking them down, focusing in on them
Mhm.
microscopically. So
Excuse me.
So I noticed
No,
you
I just
said Lemuria, and now the Lemurians that I'm aware of, because it sparked something. Because there is this gentleman online, Peter somebody, and he travels around into communities and stuff, and he went to Shasta because he wanted to see what was going on there with all the hippies and also all the alien people. So it's like they believe that the Lemurians live there, and people that have had sightings or whatnot have seen them with dark eyes and have seen them with hoods over them. So that's the very beginning, right? So Lemuria goes back a long time ago. Now try and get a feel of that. And I remember you talking earlier about the Aztecs and the heart sucking out of the chest and stuff. I would
real quick,
imagine. Hmm.
real quick, Chad, because Lyra, we come from Lyra. The humans that are we're actually human hybrids. We all came from Lyra, supposedly, according to KERRY Cassidy. Now, Lemuria is Lemuria and Atlantean times. Get it? And then the black eyes. Are you talking about the
Well, I
children with the
think
black eyes?
Lemuria is before, I think.
Okay.
And then I think came Atlanta because we're talking about resets here.
Yeah.
Different things kind of happen. Lemuria has its own feel, and I'm not sure if that's where they were, combining animal and human, and that's where we get our cryptids of today. That's why I think it's
Yes.
important to tie all this information
Yes.
in. And so, like, or was that done in Atlantis? I think in Atlantis they were dealing with technologies, you know what I mean, and messing with dark matter or things they weren't supposed to be doing.
It was done in Atlantis time. Carrie Cassidy was saying that a lot of us were just mixed with any. Okay, so during Atlantis time, the beings there created kind of like the Greys with, okay, so they created beings that would do the work for them. They pretty much made slaves, and that's where the Fomorians come in. That Dark Journalist talks about. The Fomorians are people that they pretty much portray in like when it's like Halloween, it's like half human and half horse or whatever. They can whatever kind of DNA they can put in there. They did that in order to make them uh slaves.
Oh,
Does that answer your question?
yeah.
Kind of. Okay.
And who knows where those experiments? Because I also heard the angels were experimenting with that. You know, the fallen ones, and doing work with that sort of thing. I'm sending this off real quick, and then so there's been resets. There's been major resets. There's been small resets. Now, um, so when you go from Lemuria, I don't want to go too fast. I'm gonna stay grounded here, so and centered. So when you go from Lemuria to Atlantis, let's say, and then Atlantis fell, and there's something that happened, okay, between there and where we are now. Now, if you tune into Mud Fossil University with Muscle Spur, his theory is that, well, the conventional theory is from scientists, and what we're told is that an asteroid 4 times the size of Mount Everest hit the planet, and it caused the big flood or whatever. And Roger's theory is that the planet Venus spun too close to Earth, and our atmosphere scraped and everything like that, and it did devastation, and all the oceans rised, and all that salacious ooze, all the silicon that was at the bottom of the oceans, you know, the oceans bubbled. So now you have salacious ooze. Silicon will petrify you. You know, it's a fossiling agent. So when you heat hot oceans and such to a certain degree, then it fossilizes everything. Well, the things that fossilized, some of them were 3,000 miles long. You know, there's a dragon up the coast of California, or a scorpion type creature. There's a dragon on the east coast. You know, these have names because they've been spoken about in our Greek mythologies, and also through Ovid. Um, Metamorphosis. He was banned from by academia. But what he talks about are the gods that, you know, I was talking about earlier, um, that would speak to people in their heads. I think in that time period, or in this time period in between, I don't think it was Lemuria, I don't think it was Atlantis, but it seems like during the Christ time, I think people, it was kind of like that movie, Clash of the Titans, you know, with the gods. And there was also sea monsters because, like I said, there's these large dragons that we have. They have digestive systems of avians, birds, and so it's hard to deny that it's a creature that's 3,000 miles long. How it got here could be explained through Ovid, because he said the gods changed themselves into creatures, and then and then turned
Yes.
themselves into stone and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and that's where we okay, so we're kind of coming from that era or whatever,
Yeah.
now into the Jesus times. Now they were hunting, I believe, the parasites that were on these large creatures, which we have the reptilian bones and stuff like that, and the sea monsters, right, that were on the sea maps that the kings and queens had their people go out and do. They always knew where the sea monsters were. Theory is those were probably parasites, large parasites that came off those creatures, because just the Adam's apple on that dragon is as large as a mountain, and we look like a tiny little ant on it. So these creatures were ginormous. It takes a week to drive across them. You know, it's very feasible to say there's very large parasites living on it. And so, anyways, there's large creatures around, and then as we move forward, that was erased from history. So as we look around at our mountains and we look around, people are starting to explore that, and that gets into the mud floods, um, and that's that happened more recently. You know, the mud flood was the one that happened that caused the fossilization. Now,
Chad, real quick, before you get into that, I just wanted to say, it's weird because they were hunting the firstborn. Always the firstborn has the most and best genes, right? Of a couple. And I'm thinking, just right now, you talking about it, is that why they were searching for the firstborn? Well, they always say, well, you know, something else. But I'm thinking, were they searching for us firstborns? I don't know if you're firstborn, but
okay, so because I'm going to
did,
get into what we are. Let's
yeah,
debate your. Are they trying to destroy us? Because I don't know what they're
right.
trying to do. What I figured out is like, okay, now even with the gods, let me move forward. Okay, sorry. Um,
No, it's okay. You were talking about the flood, and then remember they have the technology to part seas.
well, okay, let me get into the gods, but that brings
Okay.
up Morgue Official. And Morgue Official is a website, a platform, you know. And so these platforms people don't know about unless you not necessarily promote them, but talk about them, you know, in a sense, and have intellectual discussion and then you know, note where you're getting your information from. But he breaks down, you know, he was an ex-Christian and he breaks down a lot of the Bible, and he's not exactly 100% on board because he doesn't know about the giants. He says, now come on people, and he rolls his eyes. When we get into the book of Enoch and they're talking about giants, this is just metaphor, you know, but let's listen to
Mm-hmm.
the metaphor. And I like that he listens to the metaphor. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's, you know, let's get the metaphor out of this. But there were giants, and so why isn't more talking to Roger Spur, who's wanting to talk to somebody that has a great connection with philosophy and scripture, and then alternative, you know. So anyways, when it comes to more official, he talks about the gods, and he says originally there were the four eons of them, and they were male and female each eon. One of the eons was named Sophia. She wanted to create independently, and when she did, she created a universe that was void of the male presence. So it was created through the shadow, and that's the main God. Now, that's the God that may be in our Bible that Jesus came to speak against. That these people, these elites, are freely praying to and stuff, knowing exactly who it is, but sucking up the energy out of everybody else who believes it's the one true God. Because in that Bible or any Bible, he says the one true God about a million times, and uh,
Yep.
it's insane. He's you know, my God doesn't sit on a throne. My God doesn't have slavery. My God doesn't isn't a warring God. So you said, does he want to destroy us? No, but I think there's a theory in my head that or feeling that he wants a world war. You know what I mean? That would be great, or a war against, or get the whole, you know, or even beyond that, whatever it might be, because he's a warring God. He was created in the shadow. He thought he was the one and only God because when he was born, he couldn't see into the higher dimension to his mother or whatever, and he was the only one. So he announced himself as the one and only God. And then Adam came forth, and God presented Adam out of the blue, and Adam was a light being, like just pure light. Well, Sophia had the bright idea to correct and okay, I'm ahead of myself. This god that was created down here, this male negative energy warring god of thunder and storms, Samael, uh, Yahweh, or I'm forgetting the names of him. Well, uh, he created bodies like what we're in right now, but it didn't have any animation, it didn't have any soul, it didn't have anything
Mm-hmm.
in it. So he tried to recreate Adam because Adam outdid everything. He made a kingdom 100 times better than, or 7 times better than heaven. You know, and that's us. That's what we are, Adam, okay, and Eve or whatever. Because Eve was also sent down by Sophia to breathe in, not wasn't taken from Adam, but to breathe in the light and into Adam. So Sophia's idea, and this is according to scriptures and different things. Okay, Sophia's idea was to now correct her error by taking the light that God gave Adam and putting it into the body that her son made or whatever, and correcting her error from the inside out. Well, they thought, oh, great, now we've enslaved Adam. We have him in the body. But no matter how much they tried to enslave us, that spark is connected to the God beyond everything, the main creator, or that main creator spark. They can't erase our memories. They come through eventually. They can't, we create. So one thing that God did in the story of Babel, because all the people came together and all the people spoke the same language, and we were so damn creative, we built a tower. I think the sky was a lot closer then. That's what I'm saying. I just remember that. I just, when I see the sky and the clouds touching the treetops, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of toga time. Like when we
Well,
lived in
they
toga.
were building a tower because they were getting a spaceship to get out of here.
Well, they were so brilliant that they built this ingenious building, and God said, "Oh my gosh, my children are so brilliant. I need to destroy this,
Right.
and then divide them and create different languages so they can't. What kind of God does that? One that wants to keep us in a body. That God of the Bible, pardon my language, is not who we think it is, and that's Gnostic. Those
It's
are the Gnostic
Zeus.
beliefs, and that's all
Yeah.
covered in Morgue Official. He gets into that. So when you say, are they trying to destroy us? I don't think we're trying to be destroyed. I think we're trying to be controlled. So whenever
Yeah.
we start to get so creative and we outthink their thing and we start to interfere with it, they got to shut us down. And when they can't shut us down, then they got to reset us. And I don't know that they want to destroy us, but I think they want to reset us and then erase the memory and put us back in the body and create that false narrative that there was a wild, wild west.
Right.
With when all these buildings were here the whole time, because according to mud fossil theory, which is the other connection, if people look into that, John Levi, he goes through all the buildings and he goes through all the topographical stuff too, geographical stuff out there. What might have been buildings that might be mountains now and stuff like that. And all our buildings are, uh, there's a story or two underground. And we built some of them. We built the wooden ones. We built the outhouses. None of these buildings had toilets in them. We didn't know how to operate them. And that gets into like what was the Civil War, because the Cherokees claimed they were living in the according to a book that John Levi did a presentation on from the Library of Congress. The Cherokees were claiming to live in those plantations, and white people and black people were already here. They have no evidence that the slave ships were real. They have no evidence that that for climbing over, these ships or whatever. We had the Titanic. We had major ships. They were already built. All those stories were lies.
Now, the Titanic, it was not the original Titanic that they used, but they did destroy.
Or the
Yeah, they destroyed people.
Lithuania.
Now, my thing, you just brought up another point that I've been thinking about today about this whole supposed reset, because I know for the longest time um I've been talking about how they want to use CERN and the different Stargates portals and things like that to take us through a wormhole for a new Earth. Okay, and I don't consent to that. Our thing is to be here on Earth and to find a way to survive, supposedly. Now these guys, the 13 families, they supposedly want us to go to Jupiter. But why? I mean, all I know is that the Jesus that they worship is actually Zeus, and he is in Jupiter. So why would we even want to consent to go to Jupiter? It doesn't make sense to me. Alex Collier talks about this mentorship, and he also reiterated what Kerry was saying, is that not all ETs are benevolent. Not all extraterrestrials want the best for us. Remember, not all of them are good, and a lot of people are being fed that BS. he was talking about how we should, be mentored. Spoke a lot about the Andromedans, and I come from Andromeda, so and of course the Sirius, and all that. But it's really interesting because I've been shot down so many times, and I'm like, you know what, guys, you got to stop worshiping, depending on other things other than yourself. Um, Breaking programs and things like that. I don't know. It's just, why would we want to go to Jupiter if Zeus is there in his gold city, with all these other demigods, like in Thor, the movie Thor, Love and Thunder. I know that these beings operate in the fourth dimension and through holograms and things like that.
Yeah, there's many layers to this puzzle, that's for sure, and many dimensions. Now with the mentoring program, yes, because, well, yes or no, I don't know, because, okay, yes, because our DNA is damaged, or whatever. We don't have our past memories. We're sort of in a situation where we could use the help, but we are also atoms, right? So we can go within, and we can wake
Mhm.
up, and we can do, but easier said than done. Now, so there are non-benevolent or not nice aliens out there, and we make deals with them. Our governments have. So now, since they're integrated or they're involved, then we either got to become Superman, or maybe we do need to get a little bit of mentoring. However, what he was saying was we are not going to receive it unless we meet them halfway.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean sit there and just give good energy to them and tune into them and say, "Hey, dude, what's up?" That means, what do I need to do, and how do I take action? And you'll feel the help come in from them, as from what I understand.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm not comfortable with that because I don't reach outside myself, but I
yeah, me
agree
either.
there may be a need for a mentoring program. And I have had friendlies come in and work with me before. I
Right.
think yeah.
Same here. And it was weird. I texted you when I heard that, and I'm like, Chad, in high school, they had me in a mentor program in high school. I had to wear suits, and I had a male who was like, he looked maybe Hispanic or Native American, and he was dark, and he had this big old glasses that were very like bottle like. He had his hair parted to the side. And I was there with other students, and every student had a mentor with them, and we were learning from them, but I don't remember what the heck this whole program was about. And this was real. This is real. So when he talked about the mentoring program, I'm like, oh my gosh, were they mentoring me so that I mentor everyone, or whoever wants to come to me, or I don't know. It's just weird.
I think we're meant to take a stand
Yeah.
and speak our truth. I don't want to throw that at you right now because you still have more healing to do.
What were you gonna say? Throw what at me?
Throw that at you because you have more healing to do.
Oh no, it's
But we
okay. I
must
I
take
can
a
handle
stand
it.
and speak our truth when we're ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're doing that
Mhm.
now. We're doing this in our own ways. Um, but think of the bigger picture, of what's behind us. Because when you get into the reset again, one aspect of it is you got the Lemurians, the Atlanteans, but then you get into Praveen Mohan. And Praveen Mohan interprets all the temples and all the relics and the statues and the temples themselves. Okay, and it tells a story that was quite interesting. They were doing surgeries back then. They were experimenting with things. They had uh, statues or hieroglyphics of things, not hieroglyphics, but carvings of underwater fish that were deep water fish. They had no business seeing. How did they know they even existed? We haven't even discovered half of them yet. So there was an interesting time period there that got reset. And I think then came Jesus, and then came the after part where, there was that. And that wasn't that long ago. I think they lied about 1,000 years, from what I understand, which leads us to now. And what I'm getting to is that when we get into now, whatever they did in this reset seemed to preserve Europe and Russia a little bit, and Greece and India, but it destroyed everything here in America. And we had to come over here and rebuild things and remove all the tops off of buildings. And what do I mean by we? When you look at the old pictures and any historical text, all the people in there are painted. There may be just one or two people wandering around, and then you see all these posed pictures that they say are, this is what they're doing, but if you really look at it, it ain't what they're doing, or it's been manipulated. And what I mean by that is there's vanilla skies in all our postcards from the past. There's vanilla, in that picture of them building the skyscraper, the New York
The Empire State
Empire.
Building.
I lived there for crying out loud in King Kong.
Sorry,
Yeah,
gotta close the
that
window.
one. You know what I mean? Those were all fake.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about that, like, oh, those eating their lunch out on those steel pipes and stuff like that. We did not build those. We did not. Whose grandfather was a brick maker? Because you know how many millions and billions and or let's just say trillions of bricks, probably. I mean, a lot of these forts are built with that. These star forts, and they're out in the ocean. All our beaches aren't natural, So something happened, and there's one thing that you notice in all these photos with nobody in them. You see all these beautiful buildings, and you see uh, these men in gray suits and gray hats. Who are they? That's what we need to be figuring out. Who are they?
Mhm.
Because they're the ones
They're
that
probably
own
the
these cities.
beings.
They're the ones that owns the cities. They're the ones that own the big real estate.
Hmm.
And then
Those are
comes
the.
all these orphans, right? Because think of our
Uh-huh.
history. There's Orphan Annie, there's the Little Rascals, everything was orphans, 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 and then and mental institutes. There was lots of mental institutes. So that's what
Well,
we
that's
did
because
during the
they
reset.
were breeding
Pump up
us.
the
They were.
kids and then put all the people in the mental crazy homes. And so and then they have the world fairs that they burned down or whatever, but the world fairs were reprogramming everybody. This is now what you eat. Hot dogs, hamburgers.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not what the old menus were showing. The old menus were showing
And
old
and and
world
the and the hot
cuisine
dogs and all that, they have
in
human
America.
stuff in them.
Yeah, we
Um,
reset that. We changed it to
okay.
hot dogs and beanie weenies.
Yeah, real quick before you go on. I saw in the movie Metropolis 1927, if you look at it, it's on Tubi. Thank you, Jessica Rubber Starlet, for letting us know. It's on Tubi, Tubi. They were showing, these men being given all these, women and all that. And then the men turn around because there's a lady that comes out with all these orphan boys.
Mm.
And she says to the men that are in white, the
Kid-
men are in white, huh?
Cabbage Patch Kids
Right.
or
And the
clones.
train ones, the ones that were in the trains, the kids in the trains back and forth, right? Which is underground mag lives, which they're still doing now. Okay. But anyway, she tells all the men that are in white, she says, come, these are your brothers. Come be with your brothers. Okay. So
Wow.
then they're like, and then they go with the kids in the orphanage.
Mm.
So it's like the breeding program has always been around. The abductions of children, especially, of course, they have adults that are, but okay. And then they show the sacrifices to Moloch, right? Um, so their main god seems to be Moloch, maybe Yaldabaoth, but
Yaldabaoth, that's
mostly,
the name I was trying to think. Or
yeah, the one that
Samael.
Mort talked about, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, more, yeah. Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth. I don't even know the name.
So
Who cares?
it's okay.
I just know I'm clocking that
Mother,
fucker on my way out. And
yep.
I'm knocking him off that throne. Yeah, it doesn't make sense now. Everybody that reads that damn book, slavery, sacrifice, um, whatever else is in that book. It's horrible. And why would anybody want to pray to a God on a throne? And that's where I was like, what are you talking about, God on a throne, when I was talking to Christians? Like, yeah, I guess I'm Christian, but what do you mean God on a throne? My God is the throne. My God is everything around us. It's what the devil's made of. I said, God is everything. There's nothing outside of God, from what I understand. And they didn't know how to quite answer that, because their God sat on a throne. Well, there are gods that sit on thrones, and our
Yeah.
elite pray to them. And so do half of the, and so do Christians, a matter of fact, I guess.
Yeah. Do you know that
Now,
that
Jesus is different. His words are different, but the God of the Bible, there's like four of them, and
yeah.
none of them are real nice.
No.
He even says, I'm a warring
There's
God, an angry. No.
there's a book that I've talked about before that it's the book of the law.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. And it's red and it's from what's his name? Starts with a C. Crowley. And I read it,
Yeah,
and
it's
in the
the Book of
beginning
Wonders.
they show a picture of the Holy Spirit, supposedly,
Hmm.
like the nose down, but it's the eyes, and it says that their God in the Vatican, their God is Baphomet. And I don't like to say that name. I do not consent to
Yeah,
any. I'm not. No, I don't want anything to do with that. But a lot of people are being fooled, and they have this fake love that, and every word, especially in the Salvadorian and Hispanic community, because I know they'll say "con el favor de Dios," if God allows me. Oh, this
yeah.
I'm so glad that I got this job because, it's God that did it. No, it's you that did it, because you live in this temple and you are the God of this temple, and you got to take care of your body. You don't go praise and worship anything else that's out of you, out of yourself.
I said it's always
Mm.
inside of me, that spark. That's what's part of God, and we're all part of that. Not the one
Yeah,
they're praying to,
right, right.
not
There
the
is
one that's
one
got
I
that
believe in, but
kingdom heaven. Yeah, there's well, there's the eons, and then there's things above that. So we don't even know how what I mean. But and
it
then there's
could be
gods,
it
but
could be
and
a lot of gods.
then below the eons are the gods, and the gods can't see the eons, and then the gods have, in the upper dimensions you can't see into, so you don't know. Now there's also something you said earlier too about the abductions, and I want to bring up David Politis, missing 411. He was having a interview with Timothy Alberino, and he has his own website. Sorry, I can't bring that up, but in my memory.
It's okay.
Yeah, I can't. And anyways, they were discussing. Timothy asked David, was there a commonality in the missing 411? And for those of you that aren't familiar with that, that is our national parks, our BML land, and I think it even fizzles down from there into other properties. And people go missing and they disappear. And there's commonalities between all these. And uh, water's one of them, rock is one of them. They usually have missing clothes. Um, I think the date rape drug has been found in them, even a little bit, but whatever it is, they're found in water. The search team can't find them. Weather anomalies always happen. Um, you're walking with somebody one moment, and there's a point of separation where they go to pee, or where you guys, one's walking up one side and one's walking up another, and that's where it happens. A lot of times right out of the first parking lot. That's the missing 411. Out of our national parks and everything else. Now there's multiple things that is happening here, but one commonality that he mentioned was German. A lot of these people going missing in our national parks are German. And what story were we told? That through Project Paperclip, where they put all those people in our university and hospitals in charge of things in the United and South America. Uh,
Yeah, because I know Von
well,
von Braun, he went to Argentina, and
well,
then
that
Hitler
made
went
a
to
deal.
Venezuela.
Yeah, but they made a deal, didn't it?
Yes,
The deal made that, because the war wasn't lost, that
right.
they got 1,000 of us or 1,500
Project
of us.
Paperclip.
That's Project Paperclip. Well, this seems to be evidence of that because they don't want it to be really disclosed. The national parks aren't really talking about their missing people, and won't give you the information on it. But it's happening quite a bit, and I'm wondering if it's happening to that number. You know, and why are they German? Why are most of these people missing German? Most of the hunters going missing, the elk hunters, they were all German.
That's why we're not gonna go.
So there's validity to what's going on and what you're saying and what's been said before. I mean, the evidence
Yeah.
is there, and that's what I'm trying to lay out is evidence. It's just not a bunch of psychobabble. Everything connects and there's evidence to it, but you have to go to all these different sites and you kind of have to look into it each individually and see the evidence for yourself and make those connections so you can get the bigger picture. Otherwise, if I just go mentioning all this stuff without giving you any of the references, that's what I was trying to think of earlier, any references, it's just going to sound like psychobabble.
Yeah, it sounds
Dragons and giants, and then oh my gosh, the gods, But wait a minute, there's evidence of these giants. And then what was said in Ovid or Metamorphosis was that Zeus took down the giant dragon who was lured by a giant fish. Or Ares turned himself into a giant fish, and somebody turned himself to a giant, and Zeus lured the dragon with the fish and struck him in the neck with a lightning bolt or a sword, I think is what it was. And when you look at this giant dragon that's 2,000 miles long or 1,000, 1,400, 400 miles long in Morocco, it has a broken neck. And you can see everything coming out just like Zeus was saying. So is it a
Mhm.
lie or is it true? Because you hear
I believe it. I do
yeah,
believe
but
it.
Morgan officials over there, he's saying like, now this just got to be metaphor, y'all, because was there really gods and was there really dragons and was there really giants? Well, yes, it would appear that there really was.
And that's where I'm gonna add, is that where we get the cancer from? Because I know I have giant bloodline, which is the Nephilim bloodline. I think all of us have the Nephilim bloodline. Um, and
They
I'm
say
thinking,
the zombie
okay,
disease comes off of their skin, right?
say again.
They say the zombie virus or whatever comes off or fungus comes
Yeah.
off of them too. So
Hmm.
makes sense.
And I was reading this
This
book here
among
called this one, The Emperor of All Maladies, and in there they were saying, how the history of cancer. And for the longest time, these doctors wouldn't operate because they thought that it had like this black, I'm going to say black sentient, black goo. We'll just call it like Prometheus in there.
Hmm.
But then later on, years passed by and then they started operating again because then they couldn't find the evidence, right? And this is pretty much a history of cancer. It's very interesting. They talk about how cancer was still in the Egyptian times, and then it kind of like nobody wants to talk about cancer. When I was diagnosed the first time, well, this is the
Yeah,
fourth
right.
time. So
Yeah.
a lot of people that I thought were my friends, they just did not want to talk to me. I have not talked to like best friends that I thought I had since I was in second grade.
That's bad.
I was still talking to them and oh gosh, they're afraid. I don't know if they're afraid because the word cancer, oh my gosh. I don't want to be with this person because what if she dies and I don't want to be there, or what if I get it, or I don't want to go through that pain, or I don't know what to tell her. Oh my gosh, cancer. Like, no, man. I'm just grateful that you stuck with me. And a lot of my our other friends stuck with me. Um,
What's disappointing though, I want to get into it a little bit that they did to you that just frustrates the heck out of me is you had a dark night of the soul that was not necessary because whenever you operate on a heart or do anything, not only is it uh you got to heal, but now you're what's it called, or when you're apathy, now you're with an apathy because you can't feel anything, your heart energy, and you've got a big heart energy, and they shut that thing down, or they took the portal and had it contracting, when they did that operation and everything in the heart and on the lung. Now I know of somebody, and I just said this recently, that in the family that had a heart surgery, and they came out supposedly saying, calling hospice, saying, "I'm ready to die." And they're like, "No, you're not. You just had a surgery. You're ready to live." And he's like, "Nope, I'm ready to die. Like, this is just too much pain. This is too much of everything. Why don't they give you something to alleviate that?" And they did not. And then I have to, and it's not your fault. And people don't want to stick around. And support during this. It's like you got in, you got surgery, and then how it goes. It's like 4-star service before the surgery, and then afterwards it's like you're in the cafeteria.
One
Oh,
star service, if that.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, they just want you gone now. We
Yeah.
got money and now you're good.
Hmm.
Here's a little prescription for some Tylenol. Hope it helps. That's what they did to me. Sorry, but and it was on
Yeah.
the shelf. Why did they write me? They just wrote me a note so I knew what to get. Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
I just
I
wanted
I
to
was.
just put it out there that you've gone through it, and I don't think it was all necessary. I don't understand, and this other person that went through it, it wasn't necessary. So there's quite a few things going on, and it was a lot for you to get through. So it's nice to have you back on. Uh,
Thank you.
because you even
It's
quit
been
your
tough.
morphine, cold turkey again, different things like that, and it was like, okay,
Yep.
um, you're gonna do this the soldier way. You're just gonna muscle through this one day at a time, and that's what you had to do.
Yes, and it was hard. Um. So remember, we were okay. Hey, I have my surgery scheduled for this day, and then there was like a message from the AI saying, "Hey, if you stop talking about super solar stuff, we'll take the cancer away because it's actually nanites that are in your lung, and if you have this surgery, then it'll spread through your whole body." And I'm like, really? And you and I talked, and we're like, but then we're like, no.
Yeah.
Our mission is to keep talking. Thank you, Lorena, for being on the live chat. And no, Lil Feller, we are not interested in talking to you at all. Thank you, sir. Have a nice night.
Yeah, no problem.
And so I had a chronic cough that I had from the PET scan, because at the PET scan they gave me nuclear, which is a metal thing. And you're welcome, Lorena. And it's on the table, on the chemistry table. I forget the name. I think it starts with an F as in foxtrot. But when I had that, as soon as like 7 minutes into me being there on the chair, getting this stuff in there and then sugar in there, and then I started coughing, and that cough didn't go away until after the surgery. Um, but I kept saying, well, what if I told my doctor, my cardiothoracic doctor, I said, why don't I just wait 3 more months until this chronic cough goes away? And he's like, you know what? You can't flirt. I would not want you to flirt with that. Those were his words, because this is the fastest growing cancer in the lung. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, damn. Right. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I did it. I went through the surgery, and he
You were
said that
put on
what
the
they did is
spot.
they
I mean,
disconnected, huh?
well, you were put on the spot. You weren't going to go through with it, and then he kind of said, "Yeah, you are."
Yeah.
So
And he told me that they disconnected part of my one of my heart valves, and another part of my breast, we'll just call it breastplate of righteousness. My lung was also connected to another part. I don't know what it's called, but anyway, one of the heart valves, and then one, we'll just call it ligament. And he said he had to go through all the ribs, and then they had me like laying down on the side like that. And then he said that he cut so much into me because I had scar tissue from an incident that I had from the near death experience in 2010. And he says that he overcut to just make sure that the lung was gonna like be able to. It's kind of like when you glue
yeah, I know what
a
you're saying.
piece of paper to another piece of paper, and you're trying to get this glue out of there, and it's been there for years. And it's like, right? So he nicked it pretty much. And then when I was in the hospital, they're like, okay, we're gonna do the glucose now. We're gonna put some glucose in your tube, in your breathing tube. I'm like, no, why? Oh, the glucose helps to seal, the air seeping from the lung. And I had a chest tube, and oh, that chest tube hurt like hell.
Well, they
Whew.
didn't give you anything for it. They just stuck it. It's like what you had to go through, or Sheila had to go through. You know what I mean?
Oh
With
my gosh.
the tubes in the
You're
back.
right. It hurt like hell. So Sheila,
In
my
your
Sheila, yeah, my Sheila She-Hulk is she had this is the bleed through to her. And they did not sedate me to put the chest tube in there the second time. I cried, I yelled, I screamed, I said, give me something. They wouldn't give me anything. And the guy just kept cutting. And I'm like, mother effer, man, how could you do this to me? And I reported him to the hospital. And I said, I don't think this guy should, I mean, if I had the money, I'd sue that ass because he didn't give a fuck. Excuse my language. He did not care. And it was hell. So then, before that, they gave me the sugar and that didn't work. So what ended up happening is my neck got inflamed. Everything was hurting. This whole side, I look like, I'm not kidding, I look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It was like that for 3 days. And I told him the other day when I went to go see him, I said, Doc, what happened? He's like, oh, well, what happened is the air, instead of going out of the tube, because they took the suction out, they should not have taken the suction out. But the other doctor was like, we have to take the suction out because then, excuse me, I they're putting something in the air for 2 days now. My nose has been running and then my left eye has been running. So they're spreading some new chemical out there. I'm very aware of all this stuff. Anyway, um, long story short, he's like, well, you know, we didn't know it was going to happen. And that was that. And I'm glad it's over. And the pathology report came and said that the lymph nodes that they took from the lower left lung were clear. So I'm all, yes, ma'am, I am clear to go. But they're just trying to make sure that for the next 2 years I'm still clear. And then I have to hit that 2 year mark. And then after the 2 year mark, it's the 5 year mark. Hi, John. How are you? Thank you for being on. John Stribling. So here we are, and I'm still recovering from the other cancer they took from my lower extremities. I still have problems with flexibility, mobility. My right hip is not right. It's that's funny, huh? No, it's left. No, I'm just kidding. Inside joke. So I walk crooked. I don't know how to explain it. Like I walk off to the side, to the right a little, and it's hard.
yeah.
It's been hard. And to put on my socks and shoes, I actually had to change my whole life. And but what I want to say something really cool is
Okay.
when I walked into that cancer center, I still have goosebumps of love, which I'm putting out love right now to all of you that are watching. Love, just right now, a lot of love. Um, I was looking at all those beautiful pictures that they had and the rocks outside that said beautiful things, and the wigs that were given to me by the lady Robin. Thank you, Robin. Because my hair fell out, and my hair fell out due to the 3 surgeries, 2 blood transfusions, the anesthesia. And then this to happen. I really hope my hair stays on. It's growing, but I'm just, I said no to chemo. I said no to radiation. And we're doing this super soldier style, like Chad said. And with Chad's help, with my family, with all of you guys, thank you, John, and everyone that gave donations. Thank you so much. Um, just thank you, man. I really didn't want to ask for help, but my sister said you need to start a GoFundMe. And if it wasn't for that guy, then Chad and
That's true.
my sisters and my mom, I don't know what I would have done.
Everybody pushed. Yeah.
Because the supplements help. the everything that I tried, you know, and
I don't know if it like worked against the cancer like we wanted it to, but it helped with everything else, because
yes,
it's a holistic thing. So you want the whole organism to go back to,
yes.
so you might as well start working on that, while
What
they're
I want to
the
do,
other thing.
Chad,
So you're
what do
ahead.
you think about getting the vitamin C drip, but like in a few months because it's kind of expensive. Maybe if we get donations, I'll do that. But then there's also the healing centers with the waves. What are they called? Sonic? No, something waves that are healing with the red lights, the blue lights. So what I do at home, because when I talk to the lady on the phone, I'm like, well, I have the red lights in my room. I have my shungite everywhere, which I have to get more because these things help in the organites, the organ. Sorry, we're not supposed to say organ or organites. I don't know, something like that online. But anyway, I'm done with that. I'm just grateful. Next topic. Okay, go, Chad. Put you on the spot,
Oh no, I'm
like
good.
always.
I think my phone's gonna end in a little bit,
Oh,
so I didn't know if you wanted to continue or if you.
oh, okay. Let's
But I
let's
could.
end with
It's actually. Let me see where it's at.
okay,
Um,
because I wanted to talk about what
it
they're
said
doing to the
20%. It hasn't
children.
said 10% yet, so I'm still good.
So I'm gonna say this, okay? The face peelers. You got to be careful with those.
That's Timothy Albarino, which I mentioned earlier, and he gets into that with the face peelers. Those are in South America, and those are on surfboards with some kind of advanced technology. And this is what the villagers are talking about. And they come in and they spray something, numb you and have a little laser and cut the face off, and they take you to, I don't know, but they call them face peelers. They were talking in
Yes.
English. I had, or one guy was, they were talking Spanish, I think, and one person had a gringo accent. So it was clearly, it felt like, did we get a hold of some technology, some group, or is there something
Oh
nefarious
yeah.
up there, like becoming like a little, but it's happening down there in their jungles.
Yeah, like Black Ops. And it's also here too, and in Mexico.
Oh wow!
They what they do in Mexico and here and
Why the face? What did they want to?
pretty much everywhere. If somebody that's a millionaire has a daughter or a wife or themselves that need a heart transplant
Oh,
or need a liver transplant or something, you know what they do to them alive to get that. Okay,
yeah.
they have organ harvesting. I was talking to a nurse when I was in the hospital, and she was telling me that they at the hospitals actually have the veins that can be transplanted to people's bodies. So anyway, imagine, I don't even want you to imagine.
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot of things are going down like that, and the children are precious because they're the most pure, and we have to keep protecting them, you guys.
to keep protecting them. That's what Alex Collier was saying. He says we've now be. He said the Andromedans or whatever he was referring to. This guy made a lot of sense when it was really a nice
Yeah.
message. But he says humans have now become a resource, and children are the purest form of that. So that's what's happening to the children, and that's all they said.
And
That's enough, right?
and why do you think that they don't find them? Because they have paid officials to take you to this other route to go look over here. Oh, we already
It's
searched
it's
here.
it's all been This is all a lie. This is all
It
one.
is.
So we got to get rid of this Disney show called Eight is Enough, or what is it? Believer, and everything we've been programmed to live.
As the
Uh,
world turns.
Now, what is this? I'm curious because this God that I was talking about that was created by Sophia when she created her realm, and didn't include her husband or a counterpart, and it created this Yaldabar,
Y'all devolve or something.
Yalbal, or whatever it was. He had children, and he had demon children, and these were like our, I think they call them the Watchers, but I think, or something like that. They're up there. But you were saying like shame, guilt, sin, control. Those are like their names. One of them was Psy. One of them was, you know. whatever it was. He named them after the first sound that came out of them, but they all had names like that.
Well,
And
the Seven Sins. The Seven Sins are also in that black and white Metropolis movie from
Sure. Yeah.
1927.
Okay.
Mhm. And that's part of the 13 families from Rome that is still here.
They're the ones in the gray suits. And yeah, from Rome. Are they living in Venice though? I think that was
Some are in Venice, some are in Italy somewhere. Let me see. Hold on.
because in Venice you got the ocean all around the buildings. So they're in maritime law considered.
Hmm.
They're not under land law of the land. They're under maritime law, I think. And that's why they can live there and
Yeah.
get away with their but they're
Uh,
gonna reset us again or what's happening? I mean, it seems like help is coming in
they're
and that's what they're saying, but we have to meet them 50%. But when you
hold
got
on,
the
but the Zionists come in too. The Zionists, and then the ones that are from remember, there's people from Siberia that are also being sought after, and also the melanin dominant, which is the black bloodline, and also the Native American. So I'm thinking, okay, do they also have the Germanic blood? Because remember, some of those kings and queens in their mansions, which mansions were usually
different
inhibited by
situation. Missing
giants.
401 is different than that. Yeah, missing 401 is different than missing just in general. And
Okay.
I think missing 411 there isn't very many dominant melanin dominant. There's some, but not many that get taken. Usually they're white and they're male and they're hyper intelligent and they're German.
Now,
And some
I
females do
know,
too, but every once
yeah.
in a while there's the anomaly. Yeah, and there is so it's not like they're exempt. If you're melanin dominant, but I would imagine they have to be pretty special.
Hmm. Because some of the queens, remember when the queens and king, they wanted the melanin black bloodline, melanin dominant, so they would have their sons marry a like half black with Germanic blood female, and to better the bloodline, because remember the Germanic bloodline has a lot of infirmities, just like eczema and those that
Mm.
pus that comes out, the green stuff, from it starts with like pimples everywhere. That, not going back, that's the Nephilim bloodline. So it has a lot to do with Nephilim, Germanic, white.
Yeah.
So because they were having all these problems, remember I have that bloodline, so I was born with this thing that I can't breathe the air here too much. It's the bronchitis, the pneumonia, the constant, anyway. Um
This guy that you introduced me to, morgue official, he was talking about how he flips things around a little bit. So I like that because it allows you to
yeah.
think. But the Nephilim, were they really bad? They were here teaching us makeup. They were here teaching us fashion. They were here teaching us culture. They were teaching us different things. Did the Bible turn around and flip it around, or did they flip it around
Okay.
to make them the
Well,
bad guy when they really weren't? Because they were entering. Maybe they started out that way, but were they entering an era where they were becoming something else? And then
yes, they were becoming something
so
else, meaning that they inbred with the Merovingian bloodline. So we got the redheads, right? I was born with blonde hair and then red. So I have both the the Nephilim and the giants are pretty much the Nephilim with the red hair, but they have the Aldebaran. We'll just call it, okay. So there's a war. We all know that there's a war. Aldebaran wants to take over. It's pretty much the Dracos come in, the white Germanic, right? And then we got the bloodline with the red hair. And then we have Islam. We have Muslim. We have whatever that is that they dye their hair red just because their God, wannabe God, is like that. Okay, so there's always been problems between the white blue eyes with the red green eyes, and I have both. Okay, a lot of us have both. So that's the war
so did
within
David
us that
Bowie.
Max Spears talks about.
Yeah.
Huh? Go ahead.
Oh, so did David Bowie. He had one green eye, one blue eye. I was
Oh,
joking though, but I mean
don't talk about
that's
David Bowie.
amazing.
He's so hot, or was, or is still like. Speaking of actors, can you believe that I was watching a lot of Gene Hackman's movies
Oh
a
wow!
week ago? A week ago, Chad.
Wow! That's
And
pretty
on the 26th, he was found dead on my birthday, and his wife and his dog. My mom told me. I'm like, what? I was just watching his movies and wondering, how come he's still
Yeah,
alive? Like, is he going to be alive for long? Well, I think he was suicided because,
that's what I
or,
said.
or poisoned or something because, and then she was like 30 years younger than him or something.
Oh,
I don't know. It's just crazy. I know a lot of people are taking this time to exit this realm. Um, I'm not. I'm not done yet. Are you?
no.
No,
So we're
we're
supposed
not
to
done.
take a stand, right? But now is
Right.
it that we want to keep this world because and take it for ourselves? If that's what we're supposed to do, then it's going to be a while, right? Um, because people think there's this new earth being made for us somewhere, and once we die, we go to it.
I
Uh,
don't want to go to the new Earth because
no,
they want to take us to Jupiter. I don't want to go to Jupiter. I've been there
right?
already.
Something. So it's just interesting. Like I don't know. Like, are we supposed to be like the Gnostics, and totally give up materialism, and deny marriage, and deny intimacy, and deny
Mhm.
even foods, and deny even anything because it just it's material world, and you have to totally deny it. Or can you? Is there the middle ground that we're supposed to bring forth?
Well, I think it's the middle ground, but I also like theosophy.
Yeah.
Theosophy and how, oh my gosh. Do you know that the fires in California, by the way,
Mm.
burned a lot of Madame Blavatsky and theosophy books and education that they didn't want us to get a hold of? And
Oh,
I've been wanting to get some books on theosophy, with Rudolf Steiner and how they talk about. They also talk about how, with the abductions, they can do like a time dilation or something where you can go through walls we were talking about earlier, and it's like a trick to the eye, but you actually do go through. And he was talking about these giant strawberries, you guys. Chad, in 2017, I had a dream that these were huge, giant strawberries in front of me. And
yeah.
I'm like, what is that? And it wasn't until all these years yesterday that I was listening to Dark Journalist that he was talking about that there, during Atlantean times and things like that, they had them. And that they have the technology to make things like that. And I'm like, wow, this is
See,
the
we've
whole
got
thing
weird
with,
memories of back in the past, but there's nothing like what they told us.
I don't know. Last night, I had a dream that they gave me a black and red Smith and Wesson 38 special. Wait, it was a revolver, Smith and Wesson, and I'm like, why are you guys giving me this? And there was this man, this in the shadow being. He looked black. He was after me the whole dream, and I'm over here twirling my gun around, and I'm like, twirling the how do you say, the I the thing in the middle. Hi, Veronica. Hello. I should know this. But I'm like, well, I need more ammo. I kept telling them. I don't know. It's
Oh,
just weird. Just
spinning something. I was trying to think of something spinning. Sorry.
some of those dreams that we have are
Oh,
memories,
oh,
and
the
some
thing
of
that
them
the
are
bullets go
holograms.
in. The
Huh?
chamber. Is that what
Yes, the
you're
chamber. Hello. Yeah, I should know this.
thinking
My sergeant would make me run up and down like 20 flights of stairs in 1 minute. He heard me. Not remember.
of?
Haha. Well,
No.
it's one.
Yeah, the things
Hmm.
we know best are the things that glitch out.
Yeah. So anyway, what else did you want to talk about before we go? Because we have been on for an hour and 13 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm, I have something written down? Empire of
Yes.
Almaty. That
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't know anything about it. Is that something?
What, the Emperor of All Melodies? The book?
Oh, that's why I wrote it down. Okay.
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
There's like these bodies from Panama that they have, and they actually have cancer in them, and they're still studying them. And they have the hardening, like some of them, and they had like they had breast cancer, and they can touch it, and they're still hard to the touch and cold, and so they're still dissecting them, to this day.
Hmm.
Find that very interesting. And I was reading too that some of the doctors back in the day, they would operate on humans, and they would not even give them any kind of sedation. And then the doctors, it says in the book, um, that they were like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand their screaming. Why do they have to scream, while we're operating? I'm like, well, then give them something.
Wow.
Uh, yeah. Oh,
Wow.
I was watching Lioness, and I have a lot of memories when I started watching that again. I know that I'm still active, and Lioness is you gotta check it out. So they found like all these. They were on a mission, and they found all these children in like these bins, and the children had the zip code written on them on their hand, and they were supposed to be distributed to those trucoyotes or whatever. And the female actor is Gamora, the one that comes out in the Galaxy of the Guardians, which I'm supposed to be her sister, the cyborg girl. I have one altar there. We'll do. I know you're working on that with the book, but anyway, it's just very triggering. Like they couldn't go back and take care of the kids. They couldn't, you know what I'm saying, because they didn't even know that they were there, and they were on the secret mission. And I'm like, God damn it, man, that's still happening. I just don't. I don't consent to that. It's just wrong. It's wrong. So I always tell people, it's like if you see that some a child is being like, maybe a mom or a dad is being so mean to the kid or slapping them around, you better do something about it.
I don't know. I've done it before. I've gotten in the face of the parent.
Yeah.
Done it twice. When I was younger, I was not about that. I didn't like to see it, so it affected me, And one guy was yelling at his kid in the parking lot, like full on. I said, "Excuse me, but if you're going to yell at your kid like that, you need to take it home because I don't want to be hearing that out here in public." And
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
don't get involved. I said no. I said if he's going to treat his child like that, you know, and it was that. And then I told this one lady I didn't want her hitting her child because she slapped him or something. And I was on the subway, and she says, "You mind your own business." I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Don't do what I just asked you not to do again. Thank you." And she was like, "Whatever." And so I went. So I got off the subway, and she got off the subway with the child, and I went around the corner, and there was a policeman. I said, "There's a lady beating her child around the corner."
I'm glad you told him.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of instances where I'm in the store, and there was a lady, one instance, that was yelling at her kid and everything, and I'm like, you need to stop yelling at your child, because
Oh,
I heard the whole thing since I got in there. Go, she did not do anything wrong. She's like, you mind your own business, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna call security right now, and they left. So I did call security, and they left. I just can't.
you say
I
something,
can't.
but I wondered if I was ever right for doing that, or whatever. Because I remember when
I just don't
it
like
bit me
kids
in the
getting
ass, though.
abused. I
Oh,
don't
it
like
bit me.
getting kids abused. I don't like to
No, I
see that.
understand because I it bit me in the ass though. Because when I first got my little pup, she was just I think it was our first few days together or something, and she was not listening to me. So I thought, oh,
Hmm.
I got to do alpha dog. I got to be Sophie. You know,
Yeah.
come through the fence now. And then she was like, and I learned her personality since, and she was like, "Excuse me." Mm-mm. So I was like, "Fine," and I was like, I had to hop over the fence to try and grab her, and she ran under it. So then I had to hop back over the fence, and then she ran out along the sidewalk and was trying to run away from me because I was telling her, "Stop, come." So then I
Yeah.
even yelled louder, like 'cause I thought I got to yell even louder, like she ain't listening. I
Yeah.
felt little, and she just ran faster, and she was
Oh
running
my
into
God.
oncoming traffic because it was
Oh.
she was just a puppy at that time, and I finally reached her, and I was yelling at her to stop, and that point, I'd lost it. I was a little pissed, and I got her, and I was like, "You do not do that." Da, 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 da. I was like my bad daddy moment, right? And it was
Yeah.
the only one that I had, but somebody yells across the street, "You better stop abusing your dog." And I was like,
Oh.
"Ugh, exactly what I clocked that one guy for." I'm having my bad daddy moment, losing flipping
Yeah.
shit, and
No, I get you.
and she was trying to yarp and get out of my arms. I was like, "No, you will listen to me. No." And then from then on, I learned. I felt so bad. Let me tell you, I felt like the worst dad in the world, or whatever. And
Yeah.
I never did that again. So, and,
Hmm. Well, thank you, Chad.
right,
My phone just said I have 15% battery, so I
that's
better
about
go.
where I'm at too. So
Um, but no, no, no. We can do another show. You know us. We can always do shows. Anything you want to leave the audience with?
just to go back and like look at something of what I may have said that could be of interest and research it a little bit further, because one thing leads to another. Or if you have ways to make connections between these people, that need to have connections made, let's make those, because we're all shadow banned, and in order to find each other, it's through the community. And unfortunately, everybody forms this community, that community, and they're all talking about something really interesting, but they need to
Mm-hmm.
start we need to start connecting the pieces of the puzzle, in other words, and making
Mm-hmm.
a more solid picture of what happened to us and what's going on to us, so we have the perspective that we need. Because it's not about who which who's on the left and who's on the right. It's about who's behind the scenes now. And well, do you take a stand against kids being hit in public like I did, and or whatever? Maybe there's other ways to do it, I don't know. But we do need to start taking a stand against this,
Yeah.
and then we'll be met halfway. But we have to do it, and it's going to be like standing in a river of white water, because nobody else is in that zone. They don't want to hear it, but trust me, we're starting to reach our families. We're starting to reach, either children or parents or siblings. They're starting to hear it, because we keep talking.
Mm-hmm.
But we've had to do it for quite a while.
True.
So I think that's what's important to do, is to keep doing that. Look into some of the stuff, if it piques your curiosity, because everything is what that I tried to present has facts, and you can present it with evidence. So factual evidence. I was talking about the pictures you can go back and look at yourself. I was talking about fossils that were tested. So you can walk around in your own town and see that the buildings aren't, you know, all above ground. There's little
Mm-hmm.
windows, that go along the or whatever, and so there's
Here in
yeah,
Tucson, they're getting rid of like the older houses, and they're making so many buildings that just all look the same, especially around the University of Arizona. And that also
yeah,
reminds me of how every hospital looks the same and how schools look the same, because the abduction thing, that way the kid doesn't remember, after they erase his memory or her. I just wanted to say, remember, we do have an etheric body, and we do have our doppelganger. We do have another one, another version of us. And I believe that our aura is so important, that our aura is our twin. I believe that it's our etheric, how do you say, doppelganger. But at the same time,
wow,
we can also be in another place as we are here. Right now, I'm in Mars and I'm here. You know what I mean? But I've had multiple dreams where I see myself in the dream and I'm like, hey, hey, V, Vero, wake up. Vero, I'm right here. But that doppelganger, that me, won't look because she has headphones on and she just got home from the gym, and I'm laying down in the dream telling her to wake up. And then I wake up and I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I'm pretty sure we have more than our double. I'm just gonna say that.
okay, we'll get into it
Just
next time, because
yeah.
more to say to
Yeah.
that, for sure. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
Thank
Thank you for being on, Chad. And this is Chad
you.
Cooper.
I appreciate that. Thank you for
You're
having
welcome. And
me.
Vero Bartolini. And we love you, and we are Codebreaker Real Talk. Ciao. Okay, Chad, I'll text you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.